What is the fastest attacking tower in BTD6? Well, the True Sun God is pretty fast, with its main attack coming in at 16.66 attacks per second without any buffs or crosspaths. The perma-charge is even faster though, shooting 21.41 times per second. The anti-bloon is slightly ahead with 22.22 attacks per second, but the Legend of the Night, Plasma Monkey Fan Club, Total Transformation and Sun Avatar all attack at 33.33 times per second. The next three towers are the fastest ones in the game, but which one takes the number one spot depends on how you define an attack. First, we have the Elite Defender. It attacks 15.41 times per second by default, but it gains 1% extra attack speed for every 1% of the track's length that the bloons have traversed for a maximum of 100%, meaning that you go from 15.5 attacks per second to nearly 31. If a life is lost, the Elite Defender also gains 4 times the attack speed for 7 seconds, and that is multiplicative with the other boost for a total of 8 times the original attack speed, landing at 123.27 attacks per second. Next we have the Tack Zone. It attacks 4.40 times per second without any crosspath, or 7.82 times with both of the top path upgrades. But each attack sends out more than one projectile, unlike the other towers we've looked at so far. If we multiply by the number of projectiles, which is 32, we get 140.65 attacks per second, or 250.39 with the top crosspath. The only tower that can be said to attack even faster is the Middle Path Spike Factory when using its ability. It then sends out 200 spike piles with 5 or 10 spikes in each pile depending on whether you have the top crosspath or not. If we multiply with the number of projectiles in each pile, and we decide to count an ability to be valid on this list, we end up with an attack speed of 1000 attacks per second, or 2000 with the crosspath. So now we have the numbers for the top 3 towers. Now I want to try to max buff every one to see what happens with these numbers and test how far we can push them. Starting with the sniper, I will put it next to a True Sun God with maximum support sacrifices, add a homeland defense with jungle drums, an elite sniper that will buff the attack speed of other snipers by 33%, then perma-brew the sniper and give it 10 stacks of permanent attack speed from the ultra boost, and make sure to keep applying the ultra boost over and over for the temporary effect on top of the permanent one. Then we use Isili's Totem, which gives 17.6% extra attack speed and also activates the sniper's 4 times attack speed, because using Isili's Totem costs us a life just like as if we were leaking a bloon. Lastly, we want to make sure that the bloon the sniper is attacking is as far along the track as possible to make maximum use of the 1% extra attack speed per 1% of the track traversed. We do this by permastalling a test bloon right by the end of the track, using a relentless glue and a sabo to first make the bloon go super slowly, and then upgrading the glue to tier 5 to permastall the bloon as close to the exit as possible. Now we have to figure out how fast it's actually attacking. We do that by recording a video of it and watching it frame by frame in my editing software and counting the damage per second and dividing it by the damage per attack. The Elite Defender does 2 damage without any crosspath, and the TSG adds 4 more, 2 from the Temple Sacrifice and 2 from the TSG Sacrifice. The Perma-Brew also adds 1 more, so the total damage per attack is 2 plus 4 plus 1 equals 7. I studied computer science, you can trust the math. The amount of damage per second I counted in the editing software was exactly 7000, and that divided by 7 is 1000, meaning we went from 123.27 attacks per second with only the internal buffs to 1000 attacks per second with every buff. That's 8.11 times the attack speed, or 64.89 times the attack speed if you want to count from the base attack speed of 15.41 attacks per second. Now let's do the Tack Zone. The buffs are exactly the same, except instead of the Elite Sniper buffing other snipers by 33%, we have the Boomerang Paragon adding 11% to primary towers. This one is harder to count because you need to make sure all 32 projectiles hit by stalling a blimp with a large hitbox right over the tack zone, which we also place on top of a carrier flagship so that the tack zone is right over the track. The tack zone does 1 damage to bloons, but also has a +1 bonus damage to Moabs, and in this test we will be using a Moab instead of a test bloon since we need all the projectiles to hit. Again, the TSG gives +4, the Permabrew does +1 and +1 Moab damage. We're also stalling using a cripple Moab, which adds another 5, which all adds up to 13. The primary expertise only adds Pierce, which makes no difference in this test. I just added it because I felt bad leaving it out. The damage per second I counted in the editing software was exactly 31,200 without the crosspath and 53,504 with the top crosspath. And that divided by 13 is 2,400 and 4,115.7 attacks per second if counting each projectile as an attack. That's an increase of 17.06x and 16.44x from the base attack speeds. Finally, we have the Spike Factory. The ability sends out the same number of spikes at the same speed for the tier 4 and tier 5 ability, so we will just get the tier 4 so that the spike storms that are sent out without using the ability by the tier 5 won't mess with our math. What we find is that you can't buff the attack speed of the ability. It's kinda locked to 200 piles per second. But for some reason there is one way to make it attack faster, even though it probably shouldn't work. If you apply an overclock to the Spike Factory while a Call to Arms or Homeland Defense is active, then the overclock will actually affect the attack speed of the ability, and this works for the permanent effect of the Ultra Boost as well. With some quick calculations, we find that it should now send out 200 times 1.667 times 1.667 equals 555.8 piles per second, which means 2,779 spikes without the top crosspath, or 5,558 spikes with the top crosspath. Testing this in practice is hard, because the location the piles land on is random and they don't stay forever, and even doing it on a custom map with a very short track, I still ended up getting some variation in the results, although they were much more stable than on any normal map. What's surprising is that the results in practice does not agree with the expected values. Instead of the expected 2.779 times the attack speed, I was measuring about 2.37 times the attack speed. So that's about 474 piles per second, or 2,370 spikes per second without the crosspath, and 4,740 spikes per second with the crosspath. Either way, taking a look at all the numbers, the Spike Factory does win, even though the numbers in practice did not live up to the ones in theory. These are the numbers for the top 3 towers with crosspaths, except for the sniper, since crosspathing that one does not affect the speed of the attacks. No matter what you want to count as an actual attack, these 3 towers are the kings of speed in BTD6. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next one.